After the release of Countdown to Extinction, Megadeth had hit their peak. This was the time period in their history where they were, they were breaking in the most amount of money in their career. They were getting fame, fortune, and notoriety. So after the success of Countdown to Extinction and the new direction that they went with Countdown to be a little bit more, to slow down a little bit more, to I don't want to say this in a bad way, but to conform to the current trend happening at that time, Megadeth went into the studio to create Youthanasia. Youthanasia was released in 1994 and is a bit different compared to previous Megadeth albums that have been released at that point, in the fact that Megadeth have dropped tunes slightly on this album to create a different kind of sound. And I do have to give Youthanasia credit that this E-flat tuning is creative for Megadeth standards. You really don't find Megadeth drop tuning too much overall in their career. They normally stay around the E standard tuning and just work guitar solos and wankery around there. But Youthanasia to me was the beginning of when Megadeth started to die. At this point, with songs like Train of Consequences, A Tout le Monde, and Blood of Heroes, and even the silliness of Victory, I find that Megadeth were beginning this trend that almost alienated their longtime audience from the 80s, which knew Mustaine as this ruthless, snarling, angry person. The Mustaine that everybody knew and loved, or hated for most people. I find that Youthanasia is a solid album. You won't find any fast-paced tracks on this album. Everything is slowed down to around 140 beats per minute, compared to things on Rust in Peace, which were 180 and above. You kind of wonder, what happened? Why is Megadeth all of a sudden cranking out radio-friendly tunes? They've gone from a thrash metal band to a hard rock, radio rock band. And while I think that Cryptic Writings and Risk would be the final nails in the coffin for this incarnation of Megadeth, I find that Youthanasia does have some good tracks. And overall, I do enjoy the album. Granted, I don't listen to it anywhere near as much as some other albums, but it does have some solid material in it. If you, again, going back to Mustaine's autobiography, as I had mentioned in the Countdown to Extinction review, this was a period where Mustaine and the entire band were being pressured into what they should put out as material, what they should look like, and how they should act. And Youthanasia, sadly, is a victim of the time period. If I had to give Youthanasia a grade, I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10. There are some songs on here like Reckoning Day, Addicted to Chaos, Black Curtains, and The Killing Road, which really are good tracks. But then you have tracks that sound like they belong on rock radio, such as Elysian Fields, Train of Consequences, and even A Tout le Monde. Now, later on in the discography, Megadeth would go back and redo A Tout le Monde for the album United Abominations. And I'll just touch on that a little bit, but I believe that the United Abominations version is superior to the Youthanasia version. But I'll go more into detail on that when we get to United Abominations. Youthanasia overall was an experiment for Megadeth, and I have no problem with bands experimenting. But sadly, this was an experiment that was not... The experiment wasn't brought on by members of the band. It was brought on by management, producers, and big record label management. Youthanasia to me will always be the beginning of the end. Of course, that end we won't see the end until, well after 2000. I believe around 2001. 6.5 out of 10 for me. Danny here for Metal Couch, signing off.